You ever notice how some people open their mouth and instantly sound like they have a PhD and I know exactly what I am talking about, even if they're just explaining how to toast bread? Meanwhile you say one sentence, stumble on a word, and suddenly your brain is like, and we're offline. Here's the weird part, sounding smart has almost nothing to do with big vocabulary, fancy quotes, or pretending you read 17 books last week. Nope. The real trick? It's way simpler, and honestly kind of unfair. There are tiny, almost invisible habits that make people sound instantly sharper, more confident, and more thoughtful, even if they're secretly Googling everything later. And today, you're about to steal those habits. Let me guess, you're not trying to sound like some hyper-polished TED Talk robot. You just want to sound smarter. More put together. Like your brain actually has a loading complete sign instead of buffering every time someone asks you a question. Maybe you've had those moments where you know you're not dumb, but the words just don't show up on time. Someone else jumps into the conversation with a clean, elegant answer and you're sitting there thinking, bro, I had that thought, it just arrived late, like Pakistani electricity. Or maybe you've been in a group discussion where everyone seems to know exactly what to say, throwing ideas around like it's a tennis match, and you're just trying to figure out the topic. Not because you're clueless, your brain is just quieter. Or slower to warm up. Or tired. Or introverted. Or all of the above. And let's be real, sometimes you do say something smart, but it gets ignored because someone louder or more confident said the same thing with better packaging. It's annoying. It makes you wonder, how do these people sound so smart all the time? Like, do they rehearse? Do they inject caffeine straight into their veins? Do they have a secret script? And then there are those little regrets, the I should have said this, why didn't I phrase it like that, ugh, they misunderstood me, moments you replay at 2 a.m. while staring at the ceiling like a philosopher with regrets. If any of that feels familiar, congratulations, you're perfectly normal. You're not lacking intelligence. You're lacking structure, clarity, and a bit of conversational strategy. And once you learn those, you'll sound smarter in seconds, without pretending to be someone you're not. Alright, let's talk about the biggest trap people fall into when they're trying to sound smarter. And I swear, this trap is so common it should have its own fan club. Most people think sounding smart equals using complicated vocabulary. So they start throwing around words like juxtaposition, dichotomy, and existential paradox, even though they're not entirely sure if they're using them correctly. It's like watching someone wear glasses with no lenses, bro, we get what you're trying to do, but it's not working. Or they think being smart means giving long speeches. So they start talking in paragraphs. One simple question, how's your day? And suddenly they're explaining their full autobiography, their childhood trauma, and a 17-step analysis of why they're stressed. Nobody asked for a TED Talk, but here we are. Another classic mistake, speaking fast. There's this idea that if you talk quickly, people will assume you're super intelligent and your brain is running at 200 kilometers per hour. But in reality, you just end up sounding like Google Translate on 2x speed, words everywhere, clarity nowhere. And my personal favorite, pretending to know things. Someone mentions a book or a theory or some historical event and instead of saying, oh, I'm not familiar with that, people start nodding aggressively like a dashboard bobblehead. Then they throw in a random comment that makes zero sense, exposing them instantly. Trust me, nothing sounds dumber than trying to sound smart about something you don't understand. But here's the real kicker. All these mistakes come from the same root, people focus on performance instead of clarity. They're trying to impress instead of trying to communicate. And because of that, their conversations become messy. Too many words. Not enough meaning. Too much pressure. Not enough confidence. It's like adding extra spice to food because you think it'll taste better, but now it's so spicy you can't even enjoy it. So if you've ever tried to sound smart by over-explaining, over-talking, overacting, or pretending, relax. We've all done it. It's normal. It's human. But it doesn't work. Because the people who sound effortlessly intelligent aren't doing any of this. They're doing something way simpler, cleaner, and way more powerful, and once you understand that, everything changes. Here's the thing nobody admits out loud: when we say we want to sound smarter, what we actually want is something deeper. We want to feel respected, heard, taken seriously. We want people to pause when we speak instead of talking over us like we're background noise. It's not really about impressing others with big words. It's about wanting conversations where you feel confident, not anxious. Where you don't walk away thinking, "Why did I say that?" or "Why didn't I say this?" At the core, we want control over our thoughts, our expression, and how we come across. We want social moments to feel less like survival mode and more like connection. And honestly, we want to feel intelligent to ourselves first. It's not fun when your brain knows the answer but your mouth decides to take a nap. It makes you doubt your own potential. So the real goal isn't to sound smart. It's to sound clear, grounded, and confident, so your intelligence finally becomes visible instead of trapped inside your head. Alright, here's where everything flips. Because the big secret, the real instant intelligence cheat code, is not what most people think. It's not vocabulary. It's not knowing random facts. It's not speaking fast, loud, or theatrically. The core principle behind sounding smart is actually this: smart people don't speak smarter. They think simpler. And then they express that simplicity clearly. Yeah, I know, kind of anticlimactic. But stay with me, because this is the part that changes everything. The brain trick smart communicators use. When someone sounds intelligent, what they're really doing is filtering their thoughts before speaking. Not in a slow, awkward way, more like a clean mental process. Notice the question, find the core point, say only the part that matters. That's it. 3 steps. Invisible. Powerful. Most people do the opposite. They speak at the same time they're thinking. So the words are messy, tangled, cluttered, like typing while the autocorrect is drunk. But when you first identify the main point, even for half a second, everything you say afterward becomes sharper, clearer, more structured. And guess what? People interpret structure as intelligence. You don't have to be smarter in that moment. You just need to be clearer. Why simplicity feels smart. Think about the most brilliant people you've ever heard: professors, CEOs, creators. They can explain complicated ideas in plain language. Because real intelligence shows up like this. Short sentences, clean logic, point one point at a time, no rambling, no showing off. If someone can't explain something simply, it usually means they don't understand it well. So when you speak simply, your brain signals, this person gets the idea. And other people's brains go, smart. Just like that. The rule of 1. Here's a simple mental tool that smart-sounding people use without realizing. When they talk, they aim for one thing at a time. One idea, one angle, one question, one example. Most people panic and try to say everything at once, so they end up sounding confusing. Try this. Instead of giving 5 explanations, choose 1. Instead of defending yourself from 3 angles, pick 1. Instead of telling a whole story, pick the main moment. You sound clearer. Clear feels confident. Confident feels intelligent. Pause equals power. If there's one habit that instantly makes you sound 20 IQ points smarter, it's the pause. Not the awkward, "I forgot my lines" pause. I mean the intentional, controlled, 2-second breath before you answer. It does 3 magical things at once. Gives your brain time to choose a clean response, signals confidence, only confident people pause, makes people listen more carefully. The pause is like adding punctuation to spoken language. Without it, everything becomes one long exhausting sentence. You don't need dramatic silence. Just a tiny break. That's enough to flip the whole vibe. Speak in shapes, not paragraphs. Here's another hidden trick: the smartest sounding people speak in segments. Their speech has a shape to it, clear beginning, middle, end. Almost like mini tweets. Not essays. Not monologues. Bite-sized clarity. For example, instead of this, yeah, so I think the main issue is, like, the way people approach the problem, because a lot of times we assume something is complicated but actually it's not, and so basically the problem isn't the problem, it's how we think about the problem. Try this shape. The real issue isn't the problem. It's the way we look at it. We tend to overcomplicate simple things. Short. Punchy. Structured. It feels more intelligent, even though the content is the same. 70/30th rule of smart communication. Here's a shocker. Smart-sounding people don't talk constantly. They talk 30% of the time. And observe 70% of the time. Why? Because listening lets them gather information. Once they speak, it sounds intentional instead of noisy. When you speak less, people notice more. Your words have weight. Your ideas feel polished even before you open your mouth. You don't have to force this. Just slow down your responses and let others fill the space first. You instantly sound more thoughtful. The power of the frame sentence. Here's a tiny trick that upgrades every answer you give. Start with a framing sentence, something that signals clarity and direction. Like, here's the interesting part. I see it in two ways. The simple version is this. If I break it down, here's the main point. When you start with structure, whatever comes next automatically sounds organized. Even if you're saying something basic, the framing makes it feel intentional. This is how great communicators make average ideas sound impactful. Eliminate filler thoughts, not filler words. People obsess over like, you know. Forget that. Everyone uses filler words. Your smartest friends use them too. What actually ruins your clarity is filler ideas. Over-explaining, repeating yourself, going off track, adding irrelevant details, chasing side tangents. Instead of removing remove the extra thoughts. Your speech becomes smoother automatically. Use emotional intelligence as intellectual fuel. You know what makes people sound brilliantly articulate? Awareness of the other person. Smart speakers adjust their tone based on how the listener reacts. They simplify if someone looks confused. They give examples if someone looks lost. They speed up if the listener looks bored. This makes you sound engaged, thoughtful, and socially intelligent. And in modern life, social intelligence is often perceived as mental intelligence. Talk in a way that fits the person in front of you, not the script in your head. Ask tiny, clarifying questions. Another trick. Smart people ask small questions before they answer big ones. You hear a complicated question? Ask, do you mean in general or specifically? From a personal angle or logical angle? Are we talking short-term or long-term? These micro-questions do two things. They give you time to think, they make you seem precise and detail-oriented. Precision equals intelligence. Your energy is half the message. Here's something nobody tells you. People don't just listen to what you say. They listen to how you say it. A calm tone signals clarity. A steady pace signals confidence. A warm delivery signals emotional awareness. A controlled volume signals authority. You don't need drama. You don't need performance. You just need clean, calm communication. That alone makes people think. This person knows what they're talking about. Even if you're figuring it out on the spot. Sounding smart is not about intelligence. It's about clarity plus confidence plus structure. If you can. Pause, think, simply speak in clean segments, use framing sentences, remove unnecessary ideas, match the person's energy, stay calm. You will sound smarter than 90% of people. Instantly. It's not magic. It's not fake. It's just good communication technique. And the best part? Once you master this skill, you don't just sound smarter. You actually start thinking smarter too. Alright, picture this. You're at a small gathering, friends, coworkers, that one guy who always acts like he's the CEO of the universe even though he works in customer support. Everyone's chatting, vibes are good, and suddenly the conversation shifts to something slightly intellectual. Someone asks, "So what do you think about how AI is changing everyday life?" And instantly, your brain panics. Because you do have thoughts, they're just swimming around like confused fish. So you do what most people do. You start talking before the thoughts are ready. Yeah, AI is, it's definitely changing things and I think the future is going to be very different. Very AI related, and stuff. And as the sentence leaves your mouth, even you want to walk away and pretend someone else said it. Now pause. Let's replay this scene using the principles we talked about, the smart-sounding version of you. Same question. Same situation. Same you. But this time, you take a 2-second pause. You breathe. You pick one clean idea. Then you say, "I see it in 2 ways. 1. AI makes everyday tasks faster. 2. It forces us to rethink a lot of jobs. Both depend on how people adapt." Boom. Simple. Clear. Structured. Now look around the room. People are nodding. CEO guy is briefly silent. Your friend looks impressed, like you suddenly unlocked a hidden level of your personality. You didn't say anything complicated. You didn't quote any research paper. You didn't pretend to be a tech expert. You just gave your thoughts a shape. Here's the best part. You didn't magically become smarter in that moment. You just communicated like someone who knows what they're saying. Same brain. Same knowledge. Better delivery. And that tiny shift completely changes how people see you. And how you see yourself. Alright, let's make this ridiculously easy. Here are simple, real-world steps you can start using today to sound instantly smarter, even if your brain is running on 2% battery. Step 1. Pause before you speak. This is the cheat code. Before answering anything, even "how's your day?" take a tiny pause. Not dramatic. Not awkward. Just enough to let your mind form one clean thought. It gives you clarity and makes everyone think, "Oh, they're thoughtful." Step 2. Start with a framing sentence. Give your response structure before you even start explaining. Try lines like, "Here's the simple version. There are 2 parts to this, the way I see it." These sentences organize your thoughts and make you sound naturally more articulate. Step 3. Use the rule of 1. Say one idea at a time. Not 5, not 17. 1. If someone asks your opinion, don't dump every thought in your head. Choose the clearest, strongest one, and stick to it. Less noise equals more intelligence. Step 4. Short sentences, long speeches. You don't need to monologue. Break your points into small, digestible pieces. Your speech becomes punchy, confident, and easy to follow. People love clarity far more than complexity. Step 5. Ask tiny clarifying questions. Before answering big questions, ask small ones. It buys time and makes you sound precise. Example. Do you mean generally, or in a specific situation? Boom, instant smart energy. Step 6. Match the listener's energy. If they're calm, be calm. If they're excited, be a bit more animated. This makes your communication feel intelligent, intuitive, and socially aware. Here's a trick that locks everything into your brain so you can sound smarter without remembering a long list of rules. It's called the headline first method, and once you get used to it, every conversation becomes easier. Think of every answer you give as an article. And every article starts with a headline. Short. Clear. Confident. So before you speak, ask yourself, what's the headline of what I want to say? Not the details. Not the examples. Not the backstory. Just the headline. For example, if someone asks, "What do you think about stress at work?" Your brain creates a headline. Most stress comes from unclear expectations. Then you speak from that. Suddenly your whole answer has direction. Your sentences are cleaner. Your delivery sounds sharper. And people feel like you really know what you're talking about. This trick also acts as a confidence booster. Because when you know your headline, you never feel lost in your own thoughts. You're guiding the conversation instead of being dragged by it. If you want to remember this forever, visualize a tiny newspaper editor living in your brain holding up a sign that says, "Give me the headline." If you can master that one habit, you'll sound smart in every room you walk into. So here's the funny part, sounding smarter was never about being some super polished, hyper-intellectual genius. It was never about big words or pretending you've memorized half of Wikipedia. It all comes down to a few small habits: pausing, simplifying, structuring your thoughts, and speaking with calm clarity. If you've been replaying conversations at night, overthinking your phrasing, or feeling like your thoughts get stuck somewhere between your brain and your mouth, breathe. You're not broken. You just needed a better system. And now you have one. Use the pause. Pick the headline. Keep it simple. Let your words breathe. Do this consistently and you'll notice something amazing. People will start listening more closely, treating your opinions with more weight, and responding to you with genuine respect. Not because you're pretending to be smart, but because your real intelligence finally has space to come through. If this helped, stick around for the next video. It'll build on exactly this kind of communication power. And who knows? Today you learned to sound smarter. Next time, you might actually think smarter too.